The basement door shook again as heavy footsteps echoed through the house. Dust drifted from the ceiling. Lumi pressed herself against the wall, shaking so hard her glow flickered like a candle in the wind. Evan stood in front of her, gripping the metal rod tightly, refusing to move even an inch. The footsteps were slow, steady, and deliberate. Whoever had entered the house was not human. The air felt colder, heavier, filled with an energy that didn't belong on Earth. A faint humming sound echoed above them, like a machine breathing. "Subject Lumi," a voice called out from upstairs. It was metallic, emotionless, but controlled. "You are ordered to surrender." Lumi covered her ears with both hands. Tears formed in her glowing eyes. Evan felt something burn inside him, anger mixed with fear. Whoever these beings were, they weren't here to help her. They had hurt her before. They wanted to take her back to a place where joy didn't exist. "No one is taking her," Evan whispered through clenched teeth. He braced himself as the basement door handle twisted. A bright line of light cut through the darkness as the door cracked open. Lumi cried out softly. Evan stepped forward, raising the metal rod. The door burst fully open. A tall alien stood in the doorway, its body slim and armored with glowing plates. Its eyes were sharp, silver, and cold. It stared at Evan, then at Lumi, scanning her trembling form. "Human," the alien said. "Stand aside. The child is a protected specimen. She does not belong here." Evan didn't move. "She belongs where she feels safe. And that's here." The alien tilted its head, confused. "She is not capable of emotion. She is a research subject." Lumi whimpered at the words. Evan tightened his grip. "You're wrong," he said. "She laughed today." The alien paused. For a moment, its silver eyes flickered, a sign of surprise, disbelief, or even shock. "Impossible," it said. "This child has never displayed emotional response. Her kind was designed without such capacity." "Designed?" Evan repeated sharply. "She's not a machine. She's alive. And she has feelings." Lumi slowly stepped out from behind him, her tiny hands trembling. She lifted her head and met the alien's eyes. Her glow brightened, not with fear, but with determination. She took one small, shaky step forward. The alien froze. Lumi raised her hand and pointed at Evan. Then she touched her chest. The same gesture she always used to show trust. The alien scanned her again. Her energy signature. "It has changed." Evan looked at Lumi. "Show them," he whispered. "Show them what you learned." Lumi breathed in, gathering every small piece of courage she had. Her glow pulsed gently. Her eyes softened, and then she laughed. A soft, trembling, beautiful laugh. The sound filled the basement like warm light. It was tiny but powerful. Fragile, but full of life. The alien stepped back as if the sound had pushed it. The plates on its armor flickered in confusion. This cannot be. Joy is not part of her programming. Humans cannot influence. But Lumi laughed again, louder this time. Her glow burst into bright waves, filling the room with shimmering blue light. The energy washed over Evan, warm and gentle. Then it washed over the alien. The alien stumbled backward. Its silver eyes widened. Her emotional field. "It is rewriting her core." Evan nodded. "She's not a specimen anymore. She's a child." The alien looked at Lumi again, studying her glow, her laugh, her small but brave stance. Slowly, it lowered its weapon. "This changes her status," it said. "A bond with a human. This has never occurred before." Lumi stepped closer to Evan and took his hand, holding it tightly. The alien observed the connection, the warmth, the trust, the new strength inside her. Finally, the alien said, "If her choice is to remain with you, we cannot force her return." Lumi's glow flared with relief. She pressed her forehead against Evan's arm, humming softly, feeling safe again. Evan exhaled, his shoulders dropping. The danger had passed. The alien stepped back into the doorway. Protect her well, human. She is now more than what she was made to be. And with that, the alien turned and left. Moments later, a bright flash lit the sky as the ship lifted away. Disappearing into the clouds, the house fell silent. Lumi looked up at Evan. Her eyes shimmered with soft light. Full of emotion she didn't know how to name, but she felt it deeply. Evan knelt down and hugged her gently. She hugged him back, her glow wrapping around them like warm starlight. "You're safe," he whispered. "And you'll never be alone again." Lumi laughed one more time, a pure, bright sound, the sound of a tiny alien child who had found joy for the first time with a human. Lumi blinked rapidly. She didn't know what that meant, but she felt something warm spreading in her chest. Her glow increased, bright and delicate like moonlight touching water. Encouraged, Evan made another silly face. Lumi stared for a moment, then made that same small giggling sound again. This time, a hint of light shimmered around her cheeks. Evan clapped softly. "You did it again." Lumi tilted her head, almost smiling, though she didn't fully understand how to shape her mouth for it. But the feeling, the warm, rising feeling inside her was new. It felt like something she had never been allowed to feel before. To keep her going, Evan put the spoon on his shoulder, pretending it was whispering secrets into his ear. He gasped loudly, "What? You want more fruit? But Lumi will eat it first." He rushed to the table and pretended to fight the spoon for a slice of fruit. Lumi watched with curiosity. Then her body shook softly, and that fragile giggle came out again, stronger, clearer. Her glow burst into bright waves. She was changing before his eyes. The child who had once been silent, frightened, and empty was beginning to feel something powerful. Joy, real joy. Evan knelt beside her. "You have a beautiful laugh, Lumi." She pressed her hands against her cheeks, feeling the warmth. Her glow sparkled like tiny stars. She placed her hand on Evan's, giving him a gentle hum that sounded like gratitude. But as she leaned forward, the window behind them flickered with strange light. Evan turned sharply. Outside, the forest glowed faintly with blue traces, fresh footprints, bright and sharp. They weren't Lumi's, they were larger, deeper, and headed straight toward the house. Evan's chest tightened. Someone else was here. And this time, they were close. Lumi sensed it too. Her glow dimmed with fear. She grabbed Evan's sleeve, trembling. "It's okay," he whispered, though he wasn't sure if that was true. "I'll protect you." A shadow moved past the window, slow, tall, watching. Evan pulled Lumi close and stepped away from the glass. Every sound in the house felt louder now, the ticking clock, the creaking floorboards. Even Lumi's small breaths, the first spark of joy, had awakened something beautiful in Lumi, but it had also awakened something dangerous. Outside, the hunters were near, and they were not coming peacefully. The shadow outside the window did not move again for a long time. Evan stood still, holding Lumi close, listening to every sound. Her tiny glowing hands clutched the fabric of his shirt, trembling harder each second. She knew that presence. She had felt it before. It was the same kind of fear that lived in her scars. Evan slowly lowered himself to her level. "Lumi," he whispered gently, "I need you to stay calm. You're safe inside. I'm here." But Lumi's glow flickered sharply bright one moment, dimmed the next. She pressed her forehead against his chest, trying to hide from something she couldn't see but could sense deeply. Evan rubbed her back slowly. "I won't let anyone hurt you." Outside, the forest wind shifted, carrying a strange humming sound, something mechanical, controlled, unnatural. Evan looked out again. The faint silver ship he had seen earlier was now closer, hidden between thick clouds. Watching the ground below, Whatever had come for Lumi was not going to give up. Evan closed the curtains quickly and locked every door. Lumi followed him, staying so close that her glow lit the floor near his feet. Her breaths were short, shaky, and filled with fear. But each time Evan touched her shoulder or whispered reassurance, she calmed a little. He needed to distract her, give her something familiar to hold on to. "Lumi," he said softly, "remember what we did this morning?" She blinked, confused. Evan picked up the spoon from the table and made it walk across his arm again. Lumi watched silently. Her glow shimmered weakly, but she didn't laugh this time. Her fear was too strong. So Evan tried harder. He puffed out his cheeks, crossed his eyes, made the spoon talk in a silly, high-pitched voice. Lumi stared at him, trembling, torn between fear and curiosity. Then she made a tiny sound, a short, broken giggle. Evan smiled. "There it is. You can still laugh. Even now." Lumi touched her chest where the warm feeling was rising again. She stepped closer to Evan, placing her head against his shoulder. Her glow brightened a little, not much, but enough to show she was fighting her fear. Evan had an idea. If laughter helped her feel strong, maybe it could help her face what was coming. He gently held her cheeks and whispered, "Joy is not something someone can take from you. Not anymore. You found it. It's yours." Lumi looked into his eyes, her own filled with shimmering emotion. She didn't fully understand his words, but she felt their meaning. She felt his promise. Evan guided her to the sofa, letting her sit while he stayed kneeling beside her. He handed her the small wooden music box, the one she loved so much. Lumi opened it cautiously, and the gentle melody filled the room like a soft blanket. Her glow steadied. Her breathing slowed. This was her safe place. Evan knew they didn't have much time. He needed to prepare for whatever or whoever was coming. He went to his storage room and took out an old flashlight, some tools, and a metal rod. Nothing impressive, but it was something. Lumi followed him slowly, still holding the music box, the melody calming her trembling heart. When Evan turned around, Lumi reached out and touched his arm. Her glow warmed his skin. She gave a soft hum, asking a simple question without words. "Are we going to be okay?" Evan nodded. "We will. I promise." Suddenly, a loud noise shook the house like something heavy landing nearby. The windows rattled. Lumi gasped and dropped the music box, covering her ears as the melody cut off abruptly. Evan grabbed her hand. "Downstairs, now." He led her to the basement, a small but safe room. Lumi clung to him the whole way. When they reached the bottom, she pressed her back against the wall, shaking violently. The sound came again, closer this time. Metal scraping. Slow footsteps. Someone was outside the house. Evan positioned himself in front of Lumi, shielding her with his body. He could hear a faint mechanical voice through the cracks of the wooden door above. "Subject located. Retrieval required." Lumi's glow dropped to almost nothing. Tears formed in her glowing eyes. She reached for Evan with both hands, pulling him closer, begging him not to let them take her. Evan's heart tightened. "I'm here. I'm not leaving you." Above them, the footsteps stopped right on the wooden floor. Then dash boomed out. The front door slammed open. Lumi cried out, her glow sparking with pure terror. But Evan stood firm, gripping the metal rod, blocking the stairs with his body. He understood something now. Lumi didn't just find joy with him, she found strength. And he had found something too, a reason to protect her, no matter the cost. The hunters were inside the house, and everything was about to change. Lumi jumped slightly when it lit up, but then stepped closer, touching the soft light with awe. "This is a book." She lifted it carefully, opened the pages, and traced her fingers across the printed words like they were lines of magic. She didn't understand the text, but the texture fascinated her. "This is a window." Lumi pressed her hands and face against the glass, staring at the trees outside. She watched leaves move with the wind and birds flapping their wings. Her eyes followed everything, every leaf, every bird, every shadow. It was as if the entire world was new to her. Evan realized something important. Lumi hadn't just been running from danger. She had never seen Earth before. Everything around her, the house, the sounds, the air, was a new world. He watched her explore with careful steps. She touched the sofa, feeling its softness. She ran her fingers over the wooden floor, following the patterns in the wood grains. She tapped the walls gently, as if learning their structure by vibration. Her glowing eyes moved constantly, full of silent questions. When she found a mirror, she stopped suddenly. Lumi stared at her reflection, confused. She reached out and touched the mirror, expecting to feel another hand, but only felt cold glass. She stepped to the side. The reflection followed. She blinked, then tilted her head, studying her own face as if she had never truly seen herself before. Evan knelt beside her. "That's you, Lumi." She pointed at herself, then at the reflection, then gave a small hum of understanding. The glow on her skin brightened in gentle waves. She seemed proud, like she had discovered something important. But the moment didn't last long. Lumi suddenly frowned and backed away from the mirror. Her glow dimmed. She touched the scars on her arms and looked down, her body curling slightly with sadness. Evan realized she wasn't admiring herself anymore. She was remembering something painful. He gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "You don't have to be afraid here." Lumi looked up at him, her eyes trembling with silent emotion. She placed her tiny glowing hand over his, holding it for a moment. It was her way of saying she understood, or at least she wanted to distract her. Evan decided to take her outside. Lumi hesitated but followed. When she stepped onto the grass, she froze. The softness surprised her. She lifted her feet and pressed them down again and again, testing how the ground felt. Then she knelt and touched the grass with both hands, watching how it bent under her fingers. She looked up at Evan and hummed excitedly. It was the happiest sound she had made, yet Evan laughed softly. "You like the grass, huh?" Lumi nodded quickly, her glow turning bright, warm blue. She stood and looked around. Birds flew overhead, and she watched them with wide eyes. A butterfly landed near her foot, and she stepped back, shocked, before leaning closer in fascination. Slowly, Lumi began to trust the world around her. But while she explored the beauty of Earth, Evan noticed something else deep in the sky. A thin, sharp line of silver moved behind the clouds. Almost too fast to see. It was no airplane. It was a ship. And Evan understood that it wasn't there by accident. Someone was searching for Lumi, and they were getting closer. Lumi stayed close to Evan as they walked back inside the house. The morning light filled the small rooms with a warm glow, but she seemed more interested in the shadows. Every corner, every object, and every sound still felt new to her. Evan could tell she was trying to understand what it meant to live in a place where nothing chased her, nothing hurt her, and no one controlled her. He poured a glass of warm milk and handed it to her. Lumi sniffed it first, unsure, then touched her tongue to it. Her eyes widened. She liked it. She lifted the glass with both hands and drank slowly, enjoying every sip. Evan watched her with a soft smile. "You're learning fast," he said. Lumi didn't understand the words, but she understood his tone. She gave a tiny hum, gentle and grateful. After breakfast, Evan decided it was time to teach her more about human life. He brought out small objects, a pencil, a notebook, a rubber ball. Lumi sat on the floor, glowing faintly as she studied each item. "This is for writing," Evan said, showing the pencil. Lumi took it and held it like something precious. When she touched the paper, the pencil left a line. She gasped softly, almost dropping it. Then she tried again, drawing slow, shaky strokes. She had never seen marks appear from her own movement. Her glow brightened with excitement. Next, Evan rolled the ball gently. It bounced against the wall and came back. Lumi stood up, startled, but after a moment she touched the ball and pushed it back to Evan. Her movement was clumsy, but she was learning. "You're doing great," Evan said softly. But Lumi was not just learning objects. She was learning trust. As the day passed, she began staying closer to Evan without fear. She touched his hands, his shirt, sometimes even his face, studying the warmth of a human. She watched the way he walked, the way he breathed, the way his eyes softened when he looked at her. She copied some of his movements in small ways, tilting her head when he did, blinking slowly when he smiled. It was her silent way of saying she wanted to understand him. In the afternoon, Evan opened the window. Fresh air flowed in, carrying the sound of children laughing outside. Lumi froze. Her eyes widened at the sound. She moved closer to the window but didn't step out. The laughter of human children was strange to her, soft, happy, full of life. She pressed her glowing hand against the window glass. "You can go outside later," Evan whispered. "But only when you feel safe." Lumi looked at the children from behind the window. They played games on the grass, running and shouting with joy. One girl fell and started laughing instead of crying. Lumi's glowing eyes softened with confusion. She didn't understand how falling could be funny. She didn't understand laughter at all. Evan noticed her expression. "You'll learn," he said gently. "Joy is something you feel inside. Someone just has to help you find it." Lumi looked at him, then placed her tiny hand over her heart, as if trying to sense this strange thing he called joy. Later, as the sun began to set, Lumi started to feel sleepy. But when Evan tried to leave the room to prepare dinner, she grabbed his sleeve tightly. Her glow flickered with fear. "Hey," Evan said softly, touching her hand. "I'm not leaving. I'm just going to the kitchen." Lumi slowly released his sleeve but followed him anyway, staying close enough to touch his arm. Evan realized that whenever he left her sight, she feared losing him. She had already lost too much in her life. She couldn't risk losing one more person. During dinner, Evan noticed her watching him more deeply than before. Her eyes held questions about trust, about safety, about why someone like him would care for someone like her. Lumi touched his arm gently, then rested her head on his shoulder for the first time. It was a small gesture, but it carried a huge meaning. Evan didn't move. He didn't want to break her new sense of safety. "It's okay," he whispered. "You're home now." But outside the peaceful walls of the house, danger was still circling. A shadow moved through the forest. A tall, silent figure walked between the trees, scanning the ground. It stopped when it found faint traces of glowing footprints, small, delicate, and unmistakably Lumi's. The figure raised a strange device that flickered with bright light. It had found her trail. And it was getting closer. The next morning, sunlight softened the small house, filling it with warm, golden light. Lumi sat on the sofa, her tiny legs hanging over the edge, quietly watching Evan prepare breakfast. She had begun to trust this place, this human, and the calmness of this new world. Her glow was steady, soft, and peaceful, yet there was still something missing: joy. Lumi watched everything with wonder, but her face never showed a smile. She made small sounds, but never laughter. Her past had taken joy away from her, and she didn't know how to find it again. Evan wanted to change that. He placed a plate of fruit slices on the table and gently set a spoon beside them. Lumi looked at the spoon with interest, then at Evan. Waiting for him to show her what to do, he picked up his own spoon, but suddenly, it slipped from his hand and fell to the floor with a loud clink. Lumi gasped, startled. Evan looked down at the spoon, then looked back at her. A playful idea formed in his mind. "Oh no," he said dramatically. "The spoon ran away." Lumi blinked. She tilted her head. Her glow flickered in confusion. Evan placed both hands on his cheeks and widened his eyes. It escaped. I think it has legs. Lumi stared at the spoon. Then she stared at Evan. Evan crawled across the floor, chasing the spoon like it was a living creature. Lumi's glow brightened slightly. She didn't understand what he was doing, but she watched carefully. When he picked up the spoon, he made a funny face, cheeks puffed, eyes crossed, lips twisted. Lumi's glowing eyes widened. It was the strangest thing she had ever seen a human do. Evan made another silly face, then another. Lumi leaned forward, studying him like a scientist observing a rare creature. Then, something happened. A tiny sound escaped her. A small, cracked, trembling sound, half breath, half giggle. Evan froze. Lumi's eyes widened, surprised by the sound she had made. She touched her throat gently, confused. Evan smiled warmly. Lumi, you laughed. Evan had always liked quiet places, but that evening the forest felt different. The wind did not move the leaves, the birds were not singing, and even his footsteps sounded too loud. He had come here to calm his mind after a long and tiring day, but instead, the forest gave him an uneasy feeling, as if someone was watching him. His heart beat a little faster, and he kept turning his head, checking the trees and shadows around him. The sun was going down, spreading a soft orange glow across the sky. Evan took a deep breath and tried to relax. But then he noticed something strange on the ground. Tiny glowing footprints no bigger than the size of a small child's hand were shining softly on the forest floor. They were not human. They were shaped differently, with small curved lines and gentle patterns inside them, almost like light drawn with delicate strokes. Evan knelt to look closer. The glow felt warm and alive, like energy waiting to move again. Before he could understand what he was seeing, he heard a sound. It was small, shaky, and full of fear. Something like a whimper mixed with a soft vibration. It came from deeper inside the trees. Evan slowly stood up, listening carefully. The sound came again, soft, frightened, and lonely. He could not ignore it. With careful steps, he followed the glowing footprints. They led him past bushes and fallen branches until he reached a tall tree. Something was hiding behind it. Evan stopped. He did not want to scare whatever it was. He spoke gently. "Hello? I'm not here to harm you." Nothing moved. Only silence. He waited, then took one quiet step closer. Suddenly, a tiny face peeked out from behind the tree. Evan froze. It was not a human child. It was a tiny alien dot. She was very small, maybe only 2 feet tall, with delicate limbs and soft glowing blue skin. Her big eyes shined like small planets, wide, scared, but full of deep sadness. Her hair was thin and silver, floating slightly as if responding to her breath. She did not speak. She only watched him with uncertainty and fear. Evan slowly raised his hands to show he meant no harm. "It's okay," he whispered. "I won't hurt you." The alien child stepped out a little more. Her legs trembled. She looked weak and tired, as if she had been running for a long time. Her small clothes were torn, and there were faint scars on her arms. Evan's heart tightened. Someone had hurt her. Someone might still be chasing her. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Instead, her eyes filled with worry, and she looked over her shoulder at the dark bushes behind her. Evan understood. She was being hunted. The bushes shook suddenly. Evan felt a rush of fear. He stepped between the child and the noise, ready to protect her even though he didn't know what he was facing. The child watched him with surprise. No one had stood in front of her like that before. No one had tried to keep her safe. After a tense moment, the bushes went still. Whatever was out there had paused or was waiting. Evan swallowed hard and slowly looked back at the little alien. She was shaking. "It's okay," he whispered softly. "You're safe with me." The child took one tiny step toward him. Her glowing hand reached out but stopped halfway, as if she was unsure. After a moment, she touched his fingers lightly. Her hand was warm and soft, and a small spark of glowing energy moved across their skin. It felt like a gentle connection, like trust beginning to form. The child stepped closer. Her blue light brightened a little, not from fear, but from relief. Evan gave her a comforting smile. "Let's get you out of here." She nodded slowly. Her glow settled into a calm, cool color. Evan turned to guide her back through the forest. She followed closely, still scared but trusting him enough to walk behind him. But as they moved, the bushes behind them shook again, this time louder, stronger, and more deliberate. Something dangerous was still searching for her. And it was getting closer. Evan walked carefully through the forest with the tiny alien child following close behind him. The sky was darker now, and the air felt heavy, almost warning him that danger was still near. Every time a twig snapped under his foot, the child flinched. Every time the wind rustled a branch, she moved closer to him, almost touching his coat. She didn't speak, but her glowing eyes kept watching him, trying to understand if he was truly safe. When they reached a small clearing, Evan stopped. He knew the child must be tired. She looked exhausted, her small body shaking slightly with every breath. Her soft blue glow had dimmed, which made Evan worry even more. He kneeled so he was at her eye level. "Are you hungry?" he asked quietly. She tilted her head, not understanding the words. But when he reached into his backpack and slowly pulled out a piece of bread and a small bottle of water, her eyes widened. She took one hesitant step forward, then another. Evan placed the food on the ground between them and backed away, giving her space. The child moved closer, studying the bread as if it were something magical. She touched it gently, then looked at Evan to see if it was allowed. When he nodded, she lifted the bread with both hands and took a small bite. Her eyes softened, almost shining with relief. She drank the water slowly, holding the bottle with careful, trembling fingers. "Good," Evan whispered. "You're doing good." For the first time, the child made a small sound, something like a tiny hum, soft and uncertain. Evan realized she was trying to respond, trying to show she felt a little safer. When she finished eating, she walked toward Evan. Her steps were still cautious, but she wasn't afraid like before. She reached out and touched his hand again, more confidently this time. A warm glow spread across her skin when she made contact. It felt like a silent thank you. "You're not alone now," Evan said softly. She blinked slowly, as if trying to understand what those words meant. As they continued walking, the child stayed close, sometimes brushing against his leg like a frightened animal seeking comfort. Evan looked at her glowing blue patterns, trying to guess what kind of world she came from. Every part of her body seemed delicate, almost breakable. It made him feel protective, even though he knew very little about her. After some time, Evan reached the edge of the forest. His small wooden house stood on a quiet hill, warm light shining through the windows. When the child saw the house, she stopped. Her glow flickered nervously. "It's okay," Evan whispered. "This is my home. You'll be safe here." She didn't move at first. She looked between Evan and the house, unsure. But when he held out his hand, she slowly placed her small glowing fingers in his. Together, they walked toward the door. Inside, the house was warm. The child looked around with wide eyes, staring at the lamps, the shelves, the sofa, everything. She moved slowly, touching objects gently as if the whole place was made of fragile light. When she found a small wooden music box on the table, she pressed it by mistake. Soft, gentle music began to play. Her glowing eyes widened in pure wonder. She stepped back, startled, but then leaned in again, listening carefully. She lifted the music box and held it close to her ear, amazed by the sound. Evan watched her with a soft smile. "You like music, huh?" She looked at him, then back at the music box, then made a small, happy hum. It was the calmest sound she had made so far. Evan sat on the sofa, and the child quietly walked over to him. She didn't speak, but she climbed onto the soft cushion beside him and sat down, her small hands placed neatly on her knees. Her glow settled into a warm shade of blue. "You need a name," Evan said. "I can't keep calling you little one." She watched him closely, curious. He thought for a moment, then said, "How about Lumi? Because you glow like soft moonlight." The child's eyes brightened. She touched her chest gently, then pointed at herself. Repeating the soft hum again, as if accepting the name, "Lumi," Evan repeated with a smile. But the moment of peace did not last long. Outside the window, a faint light flickered between the trees, too sharp, too controlled to be natural. Someone was searching. Someone who did not want Lumi safe, and Evan realized the danger had only just begun. Lumi woke early the next morning, long before sunlight touched the windows. Evan found her standing silently in the corner of the room, her glowing eyes scanning everything around her with quiet curiosity. She was not afraid anymore, but she still moved carefully, like someone who had lived too long without safety. Evan smiled gently. "Good morning, Lumi." She turned toward him, the blue glow on her skin brightening a little. She couldn't speak, but she gave a tiny hum, soft and warm, which Evan now understood as her version of a greeting. He made breakfast bread, eggs, and warm tea. Lumi watched every step from a safe distance, studying how he cracked the eggs, how he stirred them, how the smell changed as the pan heated. She didn't blink much, as if she didn't want to miss even one detail. When Evan offered her food, Lumi took it with both hands, almost like she was receiving something sacred. She ate slowly, examining each bite as if comparing it to food from her own world. Her glow changed from pale blue to a rich sky blue, which Evan guessed meant she liked it. After breakfast, Evan decided to show her his home. He wanted her to feel comfortable, not trapped. He walked around the living room, pointing at objects and naming them. "This is a lamp," he said, switching it on.